Thank you. Just following that, I'm extremely jealous of some of the context that I've listened to. Lots of good people in places doing really good things. And I'll talk to you why I'm jealous in a few moments. But seeing what matters, I use the word seeing because it's iris, it's about vision, it's about recording, but what actually matters to us as leaders and understanding what it looks like from a trust level. This is me. You can see there's lots of titles there, but this is also me. 50% polymathic brain, I'm all over the place. I'm on the spectrum, but I'm not diagnosed, so if I go off on a tangent, please just bear with me. I'm a 30% positive disruptor, so I'm going to give you some provocation today to sort of challenge your thinking, but I'm also 20% where are my keys and my wallet. So literally, I'm all over the place. I'm powered by this quote. What's his name? Hockey player, Wayne Gretzky. The hockey player goes where the puck is going to be, not where it's been. And I'm powered by that. The innovation that I'm trying to look at in our trust is all about finding that spot where nobody is or someone is talking about, and the guys at Iris are in that spot and moving forwards. And that's where I think that our trust is looking to be at all times, and moving into that space is really important. Who are we? We're a relatively small multi-academy trust. We started with 4 secondaries. We took on the most broken secondary schools in Dudley. They were the bottom 4 out of 19, all in one go. I was there from the inception. I was there from the start. I was crying into my marking. I was crying in my CEO's office going, what have you done? But we got through it. We're now 7 strong, including 3 primaries. We're all good or above. New inspection was not last week, the week after. I can't say where we are, but we've done very well. And part of what we're talking about today was well received by those people that we don't like. You can see that our children and our staff are very happy, and they look like they're enjoying themselves, not just for the promotional materials. Our context is that we've got 7 now. We're due to be 8 with taking on an all-through special school, similar to your context, which is going to be great for us in terms of understanding the needs and the developments around that white paper and how we change our thinking around that integrated, that integral SEND development through our staff to create everybody to be an expert in SEND in a secondary school with that small amount of money that we're going to be given. But we've also got a community centre as well, and the heart of us is that we serve the children of Dudley. Life chances for the children of Dudley. The Sycamore Centre was a community centre that was going to get closed down. The council didn't want it, so we are now the custodians of it. So we've taken that on board, and that's families as well. It's got an outdoor adventurous activity play centre. It's got science little bits in there as well. So we're now looking at that as that's where the space was. We've moved into it, and now we're going to take over, and we're going to make it something special. So that's us as a trust. You might think this is my polymathic brain. You know what that is, don't we? It's Mr. Toad. Impulsive, wildly enthusiastic, sometimes has a lack of foresight. Jumps into those fads without really considering what's going on. Bit of blind pride, I'm doing it anyway, because that's what I think. But people are keen to help him out. And his story was about a journey to maturity. That's what digital transformation is. But it's also me, and I'll tell you why. This is me in 2024. This is a photo from my phone. In 2024, I went to Birmingham Library. It's my first Iris Connect, and I met the guys there. I came out and I went, ah, this is amazing. I really want to have a go. I went back to the office in February 24. My boss went, chill out. It's like, okay, so I sat on it. I was lead director of maths at that point, so I was leading maths for 7 schools, and I got an itch to scratch, and I said, I really need to get started with this. So we had a few conversations from February 24 all the way through to January 25. My CEO was very, very supportive. And then she decided that this role, research innovation, was the role, and I applied, and I was very successful. I worked with the EEF, I'm a research school advocate, but I also worked for the Maths Hubs and various other things. And in January 25, I went, can we do it again? Can we do this Iris thing? Because we were doing Iris, but I don't think we were doing it very well. Engagement wasn't good. But then on that day, I had an introduction to the AI function. And I was, oh, wow, absolutely blown away by it. What can this do for us? And AI is the big thing, isn't it? ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, all of those, but sits outside the realms of education. It's quite dangerous, quite lethal mutation of things, safeguarding GDPR. And I heard this, safe, guardrails, people are able to use it responsibly, but it also does us a job. So May 25, we picked it back up, and then September, October, we started. So you can see there's a huge journey, 2-year journey. Lots of conversations, lots of no's, lots of stay in your box, guy, stay in your lane, lots of, have you thought about that really? I'm like, yeah, no. But there's lots and lots of conversations, and lots of conversations with Anna along the way as well, and the team about what it looks like, how we do it, and all the intricacies around it. And it's almost as if the roadmap that was drawn earlier was a genuine thought between us, but actually it's just a coincidence that we've both got roadmaps. But we thought about it long and hard, and we thought about how it aligned with our strategic priorities. Those are some of the strategic priorities that I ascertain to when I'm looking at my role: creating an aspirant culture, outstanding teaching and learning, a relevant and responsive curriculum, but also that developing our people. And I've heard today, it's all about people. And when you look at developing digital and transformation, it's not an IT project. It's a culture project. It's a people project. It's very much the human intelligence as well as the artificial intelligence alongside it. So we can't lose those people. We started looking at our digital strategy, and we looked at how it fed up and fed down into our schools. And the 4 strands we looked at were enhancing teaching and learning on everybody's lips in terms of what we're doing and making people better to make schools better. Reducing workload, we've talked about that, haven't we? What do you take away to make the space, the opportunity and the motivation for people to get on with it? And narrowing the digital divide in terms of knowledge, skills, devices, technology, etc. And then accessibility and inclusion. And today I think we're going to encompass some of the enhancing teaching and learning and the reducing workload. The digital divide we're going to leave, and the accessibility and inclusion. But it's the right tool for the right outcome at the right time for children, adults and all. So we're looking at how the children interact with it, how our adults, which are our staff in our schools, and the community as well. So, but are we nearly there yet? And I think we have to understand that we're in this liminal space where we're no longer looking at teacher development as a human interaction on its own, but it's got that built-in software bit as well. And we're in that space in the middle that we're not quite sure where it's going, and we're not quite sure where we're looking at, but we also need to think about how we manage what we've already doing, and we're thinking about what we're taking away. We've had conversations on our table about what you're stopping doing and relinquishing and those inherited behaviours that aren't effective. And then by selectively abandoning the past, but managing the present and then creating the future as well. So you've got this three-box thinking. From a strategic point of view, all those things are something you need to be mindful of, but making sure that you prioritise where you're going and what you're thinking about. So when we did this, we looked at the EEF model of explore, prepare, deliver, sustain. With my EEF hat on, we looked at explore. And we were doing lesson observations. We were in a good place. We'd only got a few people that were on support plans. We only got people that were on coaching plans or inverted coaching. We've got some schools that were using Iris to do little community videos and looking at collaborative practice, but like I said, we weren't using it very well. But we realised that actually we were in a really good place to stop doing formalised lesson observations, because it takes too long. From the time you've written your lesson plan and you've got your time when someone comes into the room, you've done your lesson, you're anxious. 3 weeks later, they come back and tell you what they think they saw, because it's a perception. It's their truth, isn't it, that what they saw? It might not be your truth. Sometimes the written element was not what was actually perceived to be done. Sometimes the feedback in terms of your outcomes and your improvements were not appropriate to you. And it just got a little bit sort of time heavy and inconsistent, and the variability became not a bugbear, but it became visible that people were like, well, what do I do with it now? Because the cycle had ended with my feedback. And then you've got a conversation with someone at your PMR saying, have you reached teacher standards? Yes, happy days, off you go. So that cycle never finished, the cycle just ended there. Whereas we thought about it and said, right, okay, so we need to think about time dependence, we need to think about purpose, we need to think about that reflection and autonomy and agency for change within people. And so we thought about, if AI-infused teacher development is the answer, what are we trying to solve? And that is what we were trying to solve. We hadn't posed ourselves a question. So we came together with all our leaders. So strategically, we had everybody from our schools, and that was secondary and primary, to discuss what we wanted to get out of using Iris. We essentially wanted people to have that reflective conversation, that meaningful dialogue, that research-informed culture, and that position where you can have agency to choose what you want to do, because it's you that's being developed and it's teaching development that we're talking about, not scrutiny of behaviour in your classroom. Just as an aside, our governors were a bit wary of it when we started as well, so we had to do a bit of work around our governor understanding as well. So in terms of strategy, it was a bottom, middle and a governance at the top. So we put together a plan. We took away our teacher development programme because the development part of it wasn't really happening. Okay, so we took it away, so we did remove something. We then looked at the programme and we got these 5 areas around coaching and various other things. We realised one school had got a really good culture of coaching. The others hadn't. So from a trust point of view, there was inequity between the development of one school compared to the other 6. So we couldn't have coaching in all schools because it would have just taken too long to get them coached, and we didn't have the funding to do that as well. There was no money in the pot to say you can have £3,000 to become an ambition coach. So what we did, we said, okay, you carry on with your coaching in that lane, and we carved a new lane here with our AI self-reflection. So some schools do have a coaching culture, some of them don't because they don't have the capacity in there. And that's just the way it was. So we flattened the land, we gave everybody equity to using the AI. So we chose the AI-assisted reflection pathway at the bottom. So when we were preparing it, we took our leaders to our central office, and we thought about what it was, and this was in September, October of 2025. We knew that we had to create capability, opportunity and motivation to do this. So my job was the glue that brought all this together. We've got 6 leaders in our schools, and they all wanted to do it really differently. They all wanted to do it in their own context, and they all wanted to do it with different people. They all wanted to do it a different way. So we came up with a series of agreements, not non-negotiables because they were flexible, but there were a series of agreements. So we built in what used to be the 2 hours for the teacher learning TDP, the development programme, that stayed for the launch. So we gave them the capability. We told them what it was about. We taught them about it. They'd already got some experience of Iris, but we then reshifted into the AI part, focusing on what it really did and the pathway that was in there around identifying your focus and then looking at your action steps and then your impact and your deliberate practice. We identified that 2 cycles, that's all we want from you. Across the year, we just want an opportunity for 2 cycles, because at that point, people are still fearful of using the video, so we made it really, really simple in the fact that you can either do one between September and January, and then we'll start again from April to July. 2 cycles. Each school had their own cycle time frame. So it was up to me to sort of manage that, about where they were and how that they were looking at that. We said a minimum of 15 minutes of a cycle, minimum, of an upload. And we did that because at the time, unions and governance and various other things were looking at how much time we were in and out of lessons. So we said 15 minutes. What's happened is that people are recording for longer because they've used it. We've got a regular meeting of leaders to review the progress of the completion. It was co-design and co-collaboration with those leaders, and it would have been a foolish action if we hadn't. If we hadn't have gone down the route of getting everybody in the room at the same time, it would have fallen apart. Similar to what people have done here, and their coaching, it was an agreed move and a shift in culture towards something that wasn't quite known, that liminal space in the middle. We're trying to manage this bit here, but also look to what the future holds. And we thought it was a dedicated evaluation and review from teachers. We thought that they needed the space to have that reflection point because it wasn't built into our sessions. It was all about, here's some CPD, here's the person in front of you, that's what they said, go and practice it. And I think what I've heard earlier today is that The rehearsal part, if you're given one thing to do, that flexibility and adaptation doesn't always come naturally, but they can exist at the same time. So what we've found is that some people have actually gone into the AI, put their video in, and actually then buckled against what some of the suggestions are and had that reflective conversation with themselves and with some of the people to say, actually, I'm going to do it this way because of my context, but actually referred to some of the theory as well. So it's done us two things. The monitoring and evaluation of this, so this is the metric and the dashboard. When we looked at this, we aligned some of the focus points. So we did give people a lane to stick in. So the monitoring and evaluation, we actually said that if your school's strategic priorities checking for understanding, go with checking for understanding. If it's responsive teaching, go with responsive teaching. Some people decided to do something else about their own personal choices around what they decided, and that was a discussion with their line manager and etc. So there's a bit of flex in there. But you can see, checking for understanding and responsive teaching, biggest priority for lots of our schools, and this is just one school. Our dashboard for the trust-wide is a little bit more complex than that. It also tells you how many have completed and how many are in progress, which is great for us to monitor. And then the admin metrics that can be brought out of that through the data was so powerful. What we did was then take out that from the admin metrics, and we looked at how effective people are actually reflecting and monitoring their own practice. I took the data and put it into an AI, and I said, right, can you compare the action statement with the impact statement and whether there's a clear link between the two? And we found that in good cases there was, in bad cases there really wasn't. So the impact statement was nowhere near linked to what they were actually trying to do in the deliberate practice. So we've learned that we need to do some work on people's self-reflection. But we haven't got those coaches in our schools. So what we've done is put a framework together. So we've got a framework that your impact statement must be comparative. It must be some qualitative data in there. It must be descriptive on teacher behaviour and learner behaviour, making sure that you can reference anything in the video that you've re-uploaded. So our evaluation has really, really been a learning curve. We weren't prepared for that at all. We thought that teachers, they're professionals, they're intelligent people, they're able to reflect on their practice. But without a coach, there might be some deficit there. But you can see where I did a bit of a podcast with these people, and this is what they said as a précis. You can see no pressure, calm, naturally me was really important, and that stopped people from being that Butlins red coat in the lesson because they knew someone was coming. It did it minute by minute, hinged questions more effectively, found that I planned more effectively based on what I've done. Some really good incremental, easy to implement steps that I don't think I would have probably thought about. Yeah? And I use, this is what I term the litmus paper. She's a science teacher, so the science reference. She's the litmus test for this, and she was the one that was reticent to do it, so we used someone to actually do a bit of a test with. The AI went even deeper, and I was like, wow. So you can see we've got that buy-in now. They referenced that the AI was very balanced in terms of what I noticed and I wonder if. Those were the conversations, whereas before people were very much, the feedback they got was, I would have done it this way, can you do it that way? And that's not right for people to be developed. It's much more time efficient. We've had over 290 something pathways completed since September, October, which is a lot more than we would have got across the 6 schools that we've got at the moment. And I've actually found that 2 cycles, one person has actually done 4 cycles. So that choice to go and do it has been far more taken on board than if you were offered another lesson observation face to face. You wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get people facing it, would you? We've got more monitoring and evaluation. So what we did, we got our schools together individually, and I went around every school on inset day, and we did a grouped coaching aspect. So we recognised that people wanted that human interaction. So instead of having one-to-one coaches, we found a facilitator on a table like you have, and everybody shared what they did. They grouped them together in the pathways that they chose, and they talked about what they were doing and about confidence, support reflection and all of those things, and they talked about their experiences. It's interesting, I've just picked up on your collaborative peer pathway. That's my next step now, so I've picked up something from today to build that in, so we've got the two running alongside each other that will facilitate some of this group coaching, with the view that then somebody might be confident enough to become a coach. So I've actually taken something away today, so thank you very much for that. But you can see, developmental, not just mental, 100% of people that were asked. Over 150 people responded to that. Out of the 200, other people just didn't bother putting it in. And 100% in teacher behaviour. And we can track that by the videos and the impact statements that have been put on. And we can go and align this with some of our quality assurance mechanisms as well. So not only are we allowing people to do this, we have got a catch mechanism to say, actually, responsive teaching, so-and-so looked at that pathway, I'm going to go and see that. Or it can then develop our departmental improvement cycle for next year, or our strategic improvement cycle for schools, and it links directly back to our strategic plan as a trust in terms of developing our people. To sustain it, we did a you said we did. We provide that social support. So we have got that group coaching. We have got some hot desks that are in our schools that people can just drop into. There's a person available, I think once every 3 weeks, just to go and say, my kit's not working, or I need a new camera, or I'm finding this bit difficult to do. So we've got some hot desks with some so they can do some troubleshooting. The key bit from there, we haven't done this, extended time for research-related reading. That came out of this, and we weren't expecting that. They want time for more reading. They want that sort of opportunity to be knowledge-rich and to understand not just the lane that they're in, like we talked about earlier, that practice. We want to be going, okay, so that's what I want to do. What else is in the domain that I can do as well? Our EYFS and Key Stage 1 specialism teachers, they wanted some discussions. So what we're going to try and do is get those across the trust together, but use the collaborative peer pathway now to start that conversation going. So we're going to have that collaboration across trust as well. So three primaries at the moment, and also the special school can join as well because it's cross-phase. Oracy, I was really, when Iris put Oracy as their seventh, I think it's seven, isn't it? Seventh topic in there, because we're doing a lot of Oracy programs in our schools, and we've got Oracy being tested and tried and using the AI to see whether we are in line with Voice 21, Cambridge, strands of Oracy. And then just the other bit was that people would tech upgrades and additional gadgets. They just wanted more cameras. In some of our schools, one thing that we saw was personal devices were being used, and that was okay in some schools. Other schools were using laptops that were presenting devices and also recording devices at the same time, which was difficult. So when you're trying to implement this, make sure your kit is working, you've got enough kit. We repurposed some of our old iPads, some of our old tablets, and some work phones that were just lying around. So we've got a plethora of things to go for. So in terms of kit, making sure that we've got a lot of kit that goes around. And that was in March and April of this year, literally. That's the last few months. As I said, the next steps, what we're trying to look at, is to make sure that we are encompassing all of these feedback marks that we've got, and cycle 2 has already started. We are aiming for a June finish, and then we're going to look at reporting to governors. Now, reporting to governors isn't like we've got so many people who are on teacher standards met, we've got so many people that are not teacher standards not met. This is very much more about a qualitative, not a quantitative feedback. So we've talked about the impact on strategic alignment and strategic school improvement, and looking at where they're focused in and what that does for you as a school. And then we'll draw down to the next level, so it's multi-layered. So my key takeaways from this are strategic alignment is essential, what you unite on, so the language of the EF. Know your culture, that tacit culture that sits underneath. Know who your people are, the ones that are your litmus paper, your canaries that don't normally, your measurement of who is there. Know the people that are going to lead this, the early adopters. But this is really key as well. Provide the capability, show them how to do it, when to do it, and do it well. The opportunity, build it into your CPD cycle, so you've got that revisiting, which we talked about before from the other presentation, that you've got your roadmap and you've got it built in at all times. And motivation to lead behaviour change for teachers. And those are the things that we look at. That's taken from Mitchie 2011, and that was what the government used to get us to wash our hands during COVID. So that's a framework that did work. But it's really important that we look at theories of behaviour change to make sure that we have these 3 things in our CPD cycle to ensure that we get that behaviour we want. The biggest shift that our VPs for teaching and learning really struggled with was that they don't become the deliverer of CPD. They become the analyst of where the CPD should be or is going and what is going on, the temperature of their room, their school and the room. They wanted to go and just take over. They wanted to go, well, I can see that there's a gap there, I want to go and do it. But it's actually having that restraint and letting people do it for themselves, which is an odd thing for some of them, having been in education for 25 years plus. It was always the teacher and learning that drove from the centre. Well, actually, this should be a upwards drive and a downwards drive as well, so it hits in the middle. And then those systems and structures, your CPD calendar, your opportunity to weave into other QA opportunities, your opportunity to have those conversations, and any other monitoring and evaluation that you do as well that is outside of the normal structures. So those conversations in a corridor, those Microsoft forms which we talked about before. So, bit of audience participation. I'm going to do something called the toddler activity. So we're going to have 5 minutes each. Why would you use AI insights in your professional development strategy? This is the similar question to what we asked. So that's the question that's going to be posed. You're going to be in pairs. One of you will pose the question. One of you will be stating why you think you might use it as part of your professional development strategy. And the person next to you will just keep going, why? 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 And why? By that time, you should be distilled down to a purpose statement about why you should or shouldn't be using it, because it's all about readiness, isn't it? We got to the point where we've got our whys: reduction in workload, enhancing teaching and learning, deeper pedagogical talk. Maybe you haven't thought about that at this point. So what I'd like you to leave with today is just a conversation that you've had today about why you might consider AI as a facilitator for lesson feedback. And I'm going to leave you to it. Okay? Thank you. Oh, last one. And there's me, Mr. Toad. Okay, thank you.